Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to what is going to be a short video because I'm recording with natural light and the sun's going to go down in about 13 minutes, so we're going to make the most of it. I am currently in Thailand and I wanted to make a very quick video about a few of the lessons I have learned on this trip and some of the surrounding things for me that have had a lot of impact on my life and that I think could be valuable in your own life. So, travel is something that has interested me for a very long time, probably over 10 years at this point. And one of the running themes on my channel is talking about kind of letting go and overcoming your inner limits. And for me, wanting to travel and not traveling was an inner limit that I had. I had many negative self-beliefs around the idea of travel, specifically solo travel. I am in Thailand by myself and I'm here for almost 2 months. And to the Andrew of 10 years ago, that would be absolutely terrifying. To the Andrew of today, it was still a little scary, but we're going to talk about that. What I want to talk about is specifically letting go of the limiting beliefs that are based in past experience or past perception of self. So, for the very long time, I had a kind of self-concept that was A, people pleaser, kind of do what everybody else wants, make sure everybody else is happy, and B, that I'm not very good, that I can't do the right thing, that I'm not smart enough, strong enough, whatever the case might be to, get by in the world or whatever. And I've talked at length in other videos about kind of where these beliefs might have come from or how they have impacted my life in other ways, but specifically in relation to travel, international travel, I felt a very large barrier of, you can't do that, you're not that type of person, what are you thinking trying that? That's ridiculous. And when I traveled for the very first time internationally, this is maybe a year and a half ago, you can find some old videos on my channel about it, I had to, for the very first time, kind of push against those boundaries. And what I found during that trip was that I came up against a lot of anxiety, a lot of fears, a lot of basically the experiences I had pushed up against that perception of self. And that perception of self is what I want to talk about. It's what we've talked about in a couple other videos. The idea that so often, basically all of the time, our version of ourself that we think we are, who we think we are, is based on our past experience. And that seems pretty normal, right? Like, well, I succeeded at these things, I failed at these things, I must be this kind of person. And that is how we generally tend to conceptualize ourselves. And yet, I'm getting darker, I gotta brighten this thing up. That is how we conceptualize ourselves, and yet, the challenge is that so much of that can be basically arbitrary. We go through life and let's say I was picked for a basketball team instead of a baseball team as a child. Well, now I say, you know what, I'm a basketball player. That's just what I do. I'm not a baseball player. But that belief that I am this is just based on the things that I have done. So my belief in the past that said you can't solo travel, you can't go see the world, what are you thinking? That you're gonna get chewed up and spit out there. That perception is literally only based in the fact that I haven't done it yet. And the version of me that says I can't do that, it's right. It can't do that. It, by definition, cannot do that because it hasn't. And I am identified with the past story. And that past story has not had this success. That past story has not had this experience. It hasn't done it. And so it says, I can't do that. And that is true. And as long as you identify, and as long as I identified, as long as I believed that that story running in my head saying, I am this way and I have to be this way and this is who I am and these are my limitations, blah, 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 blah. As long as I believed that was fundamentally true about myself, then I was unable to do anything because I was stuck in my own story of I can't do this, I must do this, I'm bad at whatever the case might be. And this shows up in so many of our lives in so many ways. Our identification with the past, things that have happened, we say this has happened, therefore I need to incorporate this into my interpretation of the future. And that's not necessarily true. Sometimes it can be helpful, but you need to use a lot of judgment and not believe your own negative story and take it for fact. Because when we believe our own negative story, our own story at all, but specifically our own negative stories about ourselves, we are doomed to perpetually be stuck in the same cycles. Because if I believe I can't change and I believe I am this way, I'm going to continue to do the same thing. And this is why people say, I can't change, or people say, people can't change. It's interesting how people who find themselves unable to change will generalize and say that nobody can change. That's part of their story. And they, once again, are living out their own story. If your story says, I can't change, and you believe that, good luck changing. But it's just the story running in your head. So as long as my story said, I can't do that, I'm not good enough, I'm not whatever, I was paralyzed. When it comes to actually traveling, what I want to talk about is letting go of your attachment to the story. For a long time, I tried to let go of my fear of traveling, and that did not work very well. I've found that letting go of fear can you can do it, you can let go of fear. In the moment, though, it will pop up again. You can kind of passively, like I have the video on letting go, you can go through that exercise with fear and you can kind of diminish your fear about things. But when you are in that situation, once again, your kind of autopilot patterns will begin to fire. You might feel afraid. And I certainly did at times on this trip. I have had to confront my story about who I am. But that is a good thing, because when you are faced with the story and you realize that it is an illusion, you can push through your perceived limitations, the way you thought the world had to be and the way you thought you were. And that is a big part of why I am here in Thailand. I know it's kind of funny because a lot of people come to Thailand for this amazing tropical vacation, and it is great, and I do very much like it, but I'm not really, look at me, limiting myself already. Look at me say what I am. I was gonna say I'm not really a beach person, but that's just that's just a story. That's how easy it is. Watch things like that. The point being, I am here primarily because I had a feeling somewhere deep inside of me that said, this is something you need to do because it's going to push up against these limits. It's going to prove to yourself, or at least it's going to show you that belief that you can't do these things is false, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and it has been at times. It's going to be tough, and it has been at times, and you're going to have to confront yourself. And I have had to do all of those things, but as I've said in a couple of my videos, one of my favorite thought processes, one of my favorite ideas is that those challenges in life are life kind of showing you this is where you need to grow. I've had to confront several aspects of my past self. I've had to confront my people pleasing, my nice guy, my yes man mentality. I've had to argue with the taxi driver over, I paid you enough, I gave you more than enough money, stop hassling me for more money. I've had to tell people no because you walk down the street and they say, oh, do you want to buy this? Do you want to buy this? Oh, come get a suit. Oh, my friend, nice watch, whatever. There's so many salespeople out there, and you have to practice as a people pleaser. I've had to practice saying, no, 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 thank you, no, I'm good, and just carry on my way. In the past, that would have been very difficult because I would have felt almost indebted. I would have felt like I have to go with these things. Now I've realized through much of the inner work I've already done that that's not necessarily true, but that in and of itself was another step towards confronting sort of my past perception of self. So I had a lovely conversation with a Canadian guy on a rooftop bar in Bangkok about a week ago. And he said something which I thought was pretty cool. We were talking about how our self-perception is so often a product of our past, which can be kind of arbitrary. And he said that he likes to think that we are just as much a product of our future as we are of our past. And I thought about that for a second, and I thought it was kind of profound. And then I thought, yes, and even further, both our past and our future only exist in our mind. The past exists as a memory, and the future exists as imagination. We are a We are a product of the present. We are not necessarily a product of the past or the future unless we imagine ourselves to be now. Whatever we do is necessarily a product of our present. But as long as we believe, as long as we are spending our present remembering the past and applying the past as a sort of lens through which we have to see reality, we are inherently limited. We are inherently held back because we believe that all of the things we have done are who we are. And if we are all of the things we've already done, then we cannot be a bigger thing because we are the stuff that's already done. That's your comfort zone. When you stay in the comfort zone, it's because you stay doing the things you've already done. Because you say, I am this person, because this is what I've done, this is what I do. But that's only because you've done it. So I said I wasn't a traveler because I hadn't traveled. That's so stupid, but that's how most of us are living our lives all the time, limiting who we are based on the things we've already achieved. I'm not a business person. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not successful in relationships. I can't go chase my dreams. I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm not a winner. Just because we haven't experienced the things we want to experience yet, we decide that the future is going to be bound by the past. We decide that in the present. The future and the past are both just kind of fighting in our head right now. How strange is that? So, what I am trying to do on this trip and what I would encourage you to do as well is face that past perception of self. Realize that it is not a death sentence. It's not a determining factor for the rest of your life of how everything has to be. It's just sort of the comfortable patterns we've learned and continue to do, but they're not any more fundamentally true than the things you imagine might happen in the future. Like the Canadian guy said, we are equally we are equally a product of our past and our future. We are in the middle, but more than that, I believe we're a product of what we do now. Only because we believe so strongly that we are a product of the past do we limit our future. If you didn't believe that the past defined you, if you were free of all of the limitations that past story tells you, what would you be able to do? What would you be able to accomplish? What would your life be like? I encourage you to think about that and to explore, because I believe that all of us can do so much more than our past stories tell us. Because, of course, our past stories are limited. They've already happened. We're stuck in a little bubble. The world is out here. The world is, out there. And for me, that means pushing against my beliefs of I can't do this, you can't do this. All these little stories that keep my mental picture of myself in this little bubble. And I try to apply that to the world, and that's terrifying. And it is scary. You have to face that fear. In the moment, it'll pop back up. But to realize that that fear is just based in the past, saying, I haven't done this yet, so it's scary. And you say, yeah, that makes sense. It won't be scary after you've done it, but you can't get through that process without confronting the fear, without confronting the unknown, because it is unknown. That past version of you that says, I can't do it, it's true. That past version of you can't do it because it hasn't, because it didn't, it can't, it's dead, it's in the past. But you right now can do all of those things. You can have better relationships, you can make more money, you can travel the world, you can do whatever, because you can change. You don't have to be bound by those past saying that I can't, I can't, I can't. Because the past, of course, didn't, so it can't. That's true. That story is true. But our attachment to that story that propels it into the future, saying, I am that story, thus I can't. That's the thing that's not true. That's the thing we all need to question. Thank you so much for watching. It's getting kind of dark around here, so I think we are going to call it. I'll make a couple more videos while I'm in this lovely Airbnb over the next couple days. Can you hear that? I don't know what that is. Some kind of animal. Anyway, if you want to know more about letting go, check out this video right here where I go over the entire kind of process of feeling to heal your emotions and letting go. If you want to know where these patterns come from, check out this video right here about inner child wounds and healing them. Very powerful. I think both of these things are amazing, and like always, I'm just trying to apply these in my own life. I have found these things useful. I hope you do as well. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.